Downey, and I run an agency called Kevin M. Downey, where we help B2B companies with their sales and marketing efforts. You can visit our website, looking at it right here, at kevinmdowney.com. Today's video, totally different than what I normally do. This is actually for the job seeker. How to find a remote job in 2024 using email. So why would I do this video? Well, I think just to help people, right? We genuinely want to help people. We don't have any services that we provide that are for the job seeker or the consumer. We work with B2B companies exclusively. But consider this like a tutorial on looking at it from the vantage point that we specialize in sales and marketing, right? But also the fact that we recruit. So we deal with a lot of recruiting challenges and see things from the job seeker's point of view and a hiring manager's point of view, but also an internal recruiter and HR kind of position. So we're covering all facets. So in having that experience and doing it for 10 years, we can see the demand, obviously, from our application count for remote positions is crazy high, right? Every remote position with any kind of substantial salary is going to get hundreds to 1,000 applications a day. So the biggest challenge you have as a job seeker is really twofold in the traditional methodology. If you're looking for a remote position, you're competing against hundreds, thousands of other people for any given remote position. And so therefore, and the only vehicle of communication you have, or the only thing you have that represents you, is your resume. So that resume is the only vehicle you have to get somebody to actually decide that you are worth talking to. And the challenge you have then beyond that is the fact that most companies, the people that are screening your resume, are not the people that are actually doing the hiring. They're not the hiring manager. It's an HR person, it's an internal recruiter, whatever. So you're not getting to the right person really on the front end, which is one of the big challenges. But then on top of that, you're a needle in a haystack. So unless your resume is drop dead a match experience-wise for what they're looking for, and all internal hiring people or HR and internal recruiters are looking for that resume match. Why are they looking for the match? Because they don't care on the front end about you as a person. You as a person, you are your resume. Your resume has to be a drop dead match for them to pass you on to the next level, which is typically going to be a hiring manager or part of the hiring team. Why? Because they want to be able to point to your resume and say, this is why I passed this person on to you. I don't know this person, right? I don't have a video from this person. All I have is resume. And the only resumes you want to see are ones that are a drop dead match where every box is checked. So unless your resume is a drop dead match for that position from an experience standpoint, they're not going to even consider you, right? And it only takes 4 to 6 seconds to scan a resume. So keep that in mind, that your big challenge as a job seeker in looking for a remote position, if you truly want to find a job, is you've got to do something different, right? The traditional methodology of applying through job boards and waiting for them to contact you is not going to cut it from a percentage game standpoint, right? So you got to do something different. So what can you do to separate yourself, to make yourself unique, stand out, get the right communication to the right people, so on and so forth. So I'm going to cover all of that in this video here today. So the basic thrust of what I'm going to teach you is cold outreach through manual email. You, as a job seeker, you don't want to do automated email. If you want to dig in and try to figure that out, that's fine. But I am only going to recommend that you do manual email and you're staying within the terms of service of your email service provider, whether it's Google, Microsoft, or whatever. Okay. So I'm going to dig into a number of topics in this video. One of them is how to build yourself a prospect list. And I'm going to give you a link to a portal that you can sign up for where you can build an actual prospect list. It is free on the surface. You may need to pay for it to be able to export certain amounts of data. But at the end of the day, you can build yourself a prospect list inside of this portal. You can connect your email address within it, right? And you can actually send manual emails through the portal. And that portal is apollo.io. I'm going to give you a link in the description to this video to go ahead and sign up for it, try it out, see what you think. To really use it appropriately, you probably need to pay for it. I don't know which level you would need to pay for because it's not within what I deal with on a day-to-day basis. But I think they have a month-to-month at $39 and a month-to-month at $99. Either one, I really don't know how much difference is there between the two. All of our clients we put on Apollo, we put on a $99, the professional month-to-month model. So anyway, we'll come back to that because we're going to dig in and build prospect list. First topic I want to talk about is resume. and the things that you can do as a job seeker to really improve your resume, right? And also I'm going to talk about the tools that you need in this cold outreach process and show you what your emails should look like. And let's start with the thing that's the most obvious thing that everybody is used to in the job seeking process, and that is your resume. So I keep my resume up to date. I probably disappeared off the screen, but just so you have some idea, I keep it up to date just for the purposes if it ever comes up from a VC firm or something like that, or I have a particular client I'm looking to get engaged with, maybe to get a stake in the company or something like that. I haven't had it but a few times in the last couple of years come up as a conversation, but I keep my resume up to date, right? My resume is a graphical resume, ignoring all of the rules that you hear about your formatting of your resume. The reason why your resume should be in a text format, you should always have that as a format of a resume, is because it's easy to crawl, and it's what the applicant tracking systems, or ATSs, it's how they can spider your resume if it's in text format, right? So typically you'll upload your resume in a Word document or possibly a PDF, because most of the ATSs can crawl PDFs now. But they typically tell you just to do a text-based resume because that's what HR professionals and internal recruiters want. That's fine and that's great, and you should always have one. I'm here to tell you that your outreach is going to be to a different group of people going forward if you follow what I tell you to do. And if you do that, your resume graphically is going to matter. It doesn't need to be overdone, but something like what you see on the screen here, your contact information, maybe a little quote, a quote about you, for example, would be appropriate, a testimonial of some kind, a little bit of a summary, title, like what are you looking for? What pain point do you solve for a company? What do you want to do for them? And we'll come back to the problem that a lot of job seekers face in that what I would call lower to middle level, where they're not sure, right? They're not exactly sure, like they're willing to do any remote job. That's not going to be very effective for what I'm going to show you today. You really need to have a direction that you want to go, at least job type, and maybe industry, but at least job type. And what I want to show you is that you'll notice that on my resume, everything that I have done is related. And yes, I'm old, but everything on my resume is related to what I do as a professional, right? And I've been in business for over 10 years, but my agency here, a contract position is VP of sales. And then of course, my ownership for a decade in a real estate business, because that's prominent on my history and goes to my experience as an owner. And then a couple of jobs, my two jobs and main jobs I had in sales. I don't have my retail experience from when I was a kid. I don't have, all kinds of things like that. Only what is related to the type of job that I am looking for. So I would caution you to do the best job you can with your resume to keep it directionally, keep the jobs on there only that are relevant to what you're looking for, right? Yes, I understand there's job gaps and that's a concern, but when you're reaching out to owners and hiring managers directly, that goes out the window. They don't even pay any attention to that kind of stuff, really. I mean, a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's not that important. The other thing I would tell you is you may historically put months on your resume and only put years on your resume. Again, unless you're really, really young and you're just out of school, entry level, get rid of the months off your jobs. Just do years, right? And golden rule to this, which you're probably guessing I'm going to tell you, is too many jobs is bad. Job hopping is bad. Moving around from company to company is a bad thing. Having more experience in more things is not a good thing. Companies want to see tenure within an organization. They want to see tenure within an industry. They want to see you growing within an industry. And if you haven't, that's okay. But they want to see stability. If you've got 10 jobs in 3 years, that's not stable. That just screams somebody that can't find what they're looking for, and they're never going to want to consider you, right? So your resume needs to be relative to what the job you're looking for, and streamline those jobs. Knock it down to the years. And if you have gaps, so be it. That's fine. At the end of the day, keep it more focused on the jobs that are related to the role that you're looking for. Now, as an adjunct to that, what I would say is if you are an entry-level job seeker and you're coming out of school, having jobs, whether in high school or college, having jobs that were during school or right out of school just to find employment, that's okay. But everybody else, you got to take that stuff that's not related off your resume. It's not helping you, okay? Other thing I would tell you is, and this is going to go to the kind of content that I want to see you put out there, but one of the things you can do is you can take online assessments for free, Indeeds, for example. Go ahead and, especially where you get expert and highly proficient, let's say as an example, publish those, put them with your resume, attach them as a brag sheet, right? That is something that I would say is going to help you, right? Testimonials are good. Again, things we see from entry level people and more novice job seekers, references should never be published on your resume. If they want references, they'll ask. These days, most companies aren't using references because anybody that's going to give a reference knows that legally they could get in trouble. So all they can do is confirm your employment, which really doesn't do any good. So references really aren't that important anymore. Relatively speaking, I'm sure there's still places and employers that want them and use them, but generally speaking, it's gone by the wayside because it doesn't have value for companies when they call, because the companies they call that employed you can't tell them anything, right? So anyway, or won't tell them anything. Okay, so that's what I would tell you from a resume standpoint. We're going to be doing this cold outreach. You want to have a more attractive resume, more professional. Hire somebody on Upwork to do the graphic design. If you have a limited budget, there's plenty of international people that are very, very creative and very talented. They're very inexpensive. You can do that. Get some help with the copywriting. That's really important. Copywriting, keeping things clean, properly worded. Obviously, there's online tools you can use now, which is very helpful for a lot of people. I would definitely implore you to use those. Okay. Another thing I would add in addition to some other things I'm going to tell you, is a brag sheet. In my case, I've got a sales and business development training guide. Yes, I realize that's not something 99% are going to have. But the reality is, if you've got anything that shows your accomplishments, put together a brag sheet. If you've got some history in a company, in a role, and you've got numbers, sales numbers, quota numbers, all that stuff, you can put that on your resume, but I like to see it as a separate brag sheet as well. So something that you could do is create a brag sheet. You can tie it all into one document with your resume. You can put your resume, your assessments, and a brag sheet all in one document. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. Okay. You want to keep it as 3 separate pieces? That's fine too. Resume length, basic stuff. People talk about it all the time. Keep it simple. You can see I have no bullet points on here. Basically, it's all right here in this, right? Sales, consulting, marketing, and recruiting agency. I could put our revenue on here maybe. I have the size of my territories right here in this, and sales. I've got the size of our, revenue as a real estate facility. At the end of the day, that's all they really need to know. They can tell from the title what I was doing. It's not like they need an explanation of those things. They don't need to see that I have Microsoft Word skills. Everybody has that, right? All of those things are fluff and adding to things that just confuse the reader. Keep it really clean, really tight, short, and simple. I really believe unless you're C-level executive and you're putting it all in what we would call a CV, resume can be 1 page. There's no reason to be any longer than that, right? I mean, I've been in business for however many years and I'm 53 years old. At the end of the day, my resume only needs to be 1 page. But I would also add in that I like the assessment things. So I would add that as a page. And again, a brag sheet might be 1 or more pages, but the resume itself only needs to be a single page. Now, again, certain level executive type people with employment history and VP, again, C-level, that kind of stuff, they might all put that on a resume as part of their CV. That's fine. But if you're normal going through the process of job seeking, unless you have a real reason why, there's no reason to have any more than a single page resume. Okay? All right. Resume is going to be crucial. The other tools that I'm going to tell you need for cold outreach, and I'm going to get into building lists here, but a couple of other things that you should have. So we're going to do cold outreach by email and try to find the right people to reach out to. And we're going to communicate with them by email, text-based emails only, specifically with a call to action. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. I'm going to show you a sample of an email we send, but you'll get the idea from this sample. It's not a job-seeking sample. But in this case, it's not that hard to figure out once you look at these samples. What we're trying to achieve when we do lead gen for companies using email, what you can do in doing email outreach manually and the tools you have, how you can drive people to either schedule a call with you or get them to reply. And then they might just call you, but get them to reply and also ask you to schedule a call on their calendar. Either way works, right? But you can utilize some different tools to do that. So before we get into the list, let's talk about tools. So in addition to resume, assessments, brag sheet, other things I think you can and should have: a video statement, host it on Google Drive, do it on Loom. I'm using Loom right now. Do it on Vimeo, whatever. Create a video introducing yourself and tell them, and we're going to dig into this in the email copy, what pain point you can solve for them, right? They care about you, but they ultimately care more about what problem or need you solve for them as a company, especially when you're going to owners and hiring managers, right? When we're going into human resources and we're going into internal recruiters, remember they're hyper focused on resume because that is the only thing that represents you from their point of view, right? Because they want an objective reason to be able to pass along someone. It's going to not convey as well in a video. It can, but when you get to owners and hiring managers, yes, resume, it can be important, but what's also really important is your personality, your drive, your intestinal fortitude, the things that you have done, obviously, that goes to your resume, that show that you are going to be a success in the role in that company, that you can do the job, that you do have the skill set, the experience, the background, the knowledge, right? But when we get into sales and business development and sales development roles, your personality, your drive, your emotion comes through in video. It doesn't come through in resume, right? So a video introduction would be hugely helpful, as short as possible, right? Could be something like, I'll even give you one right here on the fly. Hey, reaching out to you with with an email. I can also attach my resume, but my name is Kevin Downey. Looking for a remote sales position. I have a 23 years experience in sales, business development, script writing, list building, the whole thing. I'm attaching this video, but also my resume. Also going to give you a link to my calendar. If you're interested after looking at everything, go ahead and schedule a call. Would love to chat. Done, right? That's one way to go about it. We can also go into an eliciting response strategy, but the same thing, I want that video on the outbound, probably good to have the resume attached in the outbound, and then elicit a response to get them to schedule an interview with you. I'm going to go through the copy here in a second, but a video introduction, hugely helpful, really short, 60 seconds, something like that. The other thing you can have as a tool, and it's free, as a calendar, right? So when you do your outreach, you could put your resume, the link to the video, and a link to your calendar, which is free. I use Calendly within our agency. That's probably the most prominent one, but whatever you have as a calendar for them to schedule with you. Also include your phone number. They may call you, right? So if you're going to do email outreach, you want to give them every opportunity to chat with you, right? Schedule on your calendar, call you, whatever. I know consumers want to protect themselves from answering the phone these days. They don't want to get cold called, whatever. At the end of the day, that's your choice. But if I'm a job seeker and I'm really hungry for a position and I need a paycheck, I'm going to answer every phone call I get. I'm going to get every single opportunity I can to have a conversation with a legitimate employer I want to talk to, right? So that's one thing I would advise you. So video and calendar, a couple other tools that I would recommend that you have to do this outreach. Okay, let's talk about the copy now, and then we'll dig into list build. Okay, so this would be email copy that we might use for our agency, for example. We do email marketing for companies. We've sent about 100 million emails to date for our clients. This is a program that we offer that's a sales management program that we do. I actually head that up in our agency. I don't handle the recruiting part of our agency. So a couple of different ways you can format this. Text-based emails, one-to-one, keep them short, to the point. You can, again, we can go to two strategies. You can put everything in front of them. Video, resume, attach it, which is going to hurt deliverability. You can also give them that calendar link and give them every opportunity on the front end to give them everything so they can schedule a call with you. Or you can do more we do in lead gen strategy, which is, here's the pain point I solve. What I want to do is send over my PDF. So you could use send over your resume to them if they reply. That would be a more aggressive approach because you'll get more response that way. But you're going to want to then reply to them with your resume and follow up with a call. If you include the video on the front end, the strategy changes a little bit though, because you will not include the video. So what you might do is offer to send them the video and your resume, right, as bait to get them to respond. And then when they do, you reply with those things, right? And then you could call them, right? So that would be a more aggressive approach. But if you want to take a more passive approach, you can put everything in on the front end and say, hey, curious if you have this pain point. If you do, right, I've attached my resume. Here's a video introduction for me. Here's my calendar. Would love to chat, introduce myself, talk to you soon. If you'd prefer, my phone number's in my signature. Call me on my phone, right? Call me on my mobile, whatever. Okay. You can go either of those paths. So let's review an email. And this goes to the way that job seekers think and the question that they would ask to identify pain point. So the first thing that most are going to ask is, are you hiring? That is not what you want to ask. What you want to tell them is ask them is if they have a pain point. So let's say in the case that they could use a sales manager, because that's what we do in this email, for example. Checking to see if you could use help with generating inbound leads and appointments for you or your sales team, can build process for your sales BDR, SDR team based on a proven system techniques, and then work with them one-on-one. So it's a sales management type program. By the way, if you don't have an in-house team and need a rep to do outreach, you can source a rep for you and provide a prospect list. All in on $500 a month per rep. Have PDF I can send on my program for the industry. And then if you're interested in discussing, we can jump on a call, reply back if you'd like me to send PDF. Thanks so much. Look forward to connecting. Right. And then signature. Okay. That is very typical of the type of email that we would utilize strategically for clients. Our clients represent everything in B2B you can imagine. That is a strategy we can use. It's block-based because we want them to have to read it all in order to get an idea of what they are reading. It's much more effective for owners when we go down this path, right? When we're going to employees, especially when we go higher level, we need to get a little bit more formal with them for some reason and break things up a little more formalized email, but the copy is effectively the same. So you can see we've spaced it out. Either way can work, right? But at the end of the day, your emails should say one of two things. Hey, checking to see if you could use sales help. If you can't, you could use a dynamite remote sales rep. If you can, here's a link to my video. Here's my resume attached, and here's a link to my calendar. Would love the opportunity to have a conversation and see if I'm a good fit for your organization. Done. If you want to elicit a response, checking to see if you could use a dynamite remote sales rep. If you can, would love to send over a video introduction for me along with a copy of my resume. Reply back and let me know if I can send that. And then if you're interested, we can jump on a call. Done. That is what your email should look like on a cold outreach. Doesn't matter what the job is. At the end of the day, it's all the same thing. Okay. Remember, the most important thing in this kind of process is we're not going to HR or internal recruiters because we don't know if they're hiring, number one, and talking to those people is not going to benefit you in the process. You want to work around them in this process. We want to go directly to hiring managers, directly to owners. Okay. So I'm going to show you, final step here. What I want to do is I want to jump into Apollo. And again, I've got a link to Apollo so you can sign up for it in my signature. I don't know. I am not familiar with what is included in the free product. I know you can sign up for it. I know there's certain things you can do with it when it's free and build a list. I don't know if you can export the list from there, but I do know you can connect your Gmail, and I know you can send manual emails, for example, through that as a portal, but you have to connect your email address, right? Remember, you want to limit your email volume if you're sending through your regular email address, because obviously that can run into trouble with any of the ESPs. So you want to make sure you're sending a limited volume. Typically, when we talk about typical ESPs, we're not wanting to go past 50 a day on an email address in an email setup or doing in B2B. But you can certainly push the envelope with that a little bit if you want. But again, that's up to you. Okay. Let's look at prospect data. So when you go into Apollo, you're going to go to search, and we're going to look for people. Why? Because we're trying to reach out to people, not companies, right? Not going to do any good to reach out by email to a company. We don't want to go to HR. We don't want to go to internal recruiters. We don't want to go to the admin staff. We want to hit the people we're trying to reach out to. Okay, so let's assume we want to do sales. And for the sake of discussion, and again, you can modify this, and hopefully you can learn from this video and do all of this on your own. But let's assume, for the sake of discussion, you're looking for a sales or a business development, sales development type role, and you want to reach out to marketing and advertising type companies, right? Since that's kind of my field, or our field as an agency, right? So we're going to just choose industry, right? A lot of times we would do it with keywords, right? So there's keyword targeting for companies, as well as like we could put in here, we could put in a magazine. Right. If we only wanted to hit magazines, and we're looking for, we want to sling magazine ads. So we're going to create it. That's good. Yeah, we'll create a short list. So under marketing and advertising, we'll do a magazine. Right. So we got 2.8 million or 2.8 thousand people in that list. The list might be a little narrow, so I might have to move the magazine thing out. But let's think about who we might want to reach out to. Right. So depending on their size, and let's look at their size. So we can see by employee count. We got 2.8 thousand that are showing up, mostly small to mid, few enterprise, but not really that big part of the list, but it's there. All right, so let's just assume we're going to reach out to owners and we're going to reach out to VPs of sales, maybe national sales managers or sales managers, right? So our titles for, this kind of thing would be owner, founder, co-founder. You typically will do two co-founders because sometimes it brings more in. I don't know why. And then we're going to do, let's do chief executive officer. We consider that an owner title. And then let's do CEO. Right. And the other C levels, we don't consider owner titles, but we usually include them in what we call employee lists for clients. But sometimes they'll go in the owner list. It sort of depends. Sometimes COO, CIO, that kind of stuff. So chief executive officer, CEO, and then partner. And typically we would include president, but I don't want to exclude VPs. So I'm not going to, it's confusing, but I'm not going to include president here because if I do, every kind of vice president will show up and we don't want to do that. So we're just going to leave that out for now. So we got 159, right? So they're under marketing and advertising. Let's see. We could do VP of sales. We could do vice president sales. And let's see. We could do sales manager. Unless we can throw sales director in there. So if it's director of sales or sales director, it doesn't matter. Everything's going to get included by using those words. Okay. So let's take out that one industry. Let's take out marketing and advertising in an industry, and we'll just do keyword, and we'll do magazine. Because it gives us a bigger list. There we go, 1.5 thousand. So basically what's going to happen is now we went nationwide because some magazines would put themselves in industry by what industry they target. I didn't think about that. So let's just assume we're going to target magazines and you want to sling ads for them or do biz dev for them, right? Now I'm putting magazine as in their company name, social media tag, social media description, or SEO description. Now I have 13.7 thousand. Okay, so too many. But that's neither here nor there. You get the idea of the exercise. For your purposes, right? When we're building lists for our clients and we're doing email, typically our client lists are going to be 100,000 or greater. Otherwise, if they're going to be more in the like low tens of thousands or thousands, we can't help them directly. So we more give them a different option, but we don't help them directly. Anyway, neither here nor there. Okay, so we're building a list. So we've got our VPs of sales. We got owners. Maybe we don't want to hit owners. Maybe we only want to hit the VPs of sales and sales managers and directors. That could be fine too, right? Depends on the size of the magazine. Could divide it up into two lists. You could do owners in one list, for example, and only hit owners where they do not have a sales manager or a sales executive like that level. And then you could do just the VPs of sales and the sales managers and sales directors as a separate list, for example. Okay. So, but by and large, I would go after owners as the primary and maybe VPs of sales, sales managers and sales directors. If it's a small magazine, might be somebody that like they're the only sales rep, right? So that doesn't help you because you'd be taking their job. So they're not going to respond well. So let's say we take those out and we just go after VPs of sales and then the owners, right? So now we got 10,000. Good number. Okay. It's big, but it's a good number. Okay. So what are we doing here? So you want to take these. Net new means this is your total list size, net new. So you save it, right? And then your net new is all the ones you don't have saved. And these are all the ones you have saved. We target that a lot. So we get a lot of them saved. The saved ones are the ones you can email. You can't email them in Apollo, for example, as you save them as a contact. You're going to get so many credits for email credits to be able to save them. I don't know how many you get on a free account, maybe 0, but I think they give you some. They don't really have experience with it. But once you save them, now you can email them, right? So now you have a list of people. You can look at the website. So you can look at this person. You could pull up their website. Is it actually a magazine? Is it the right kind of thing that you want to target? Whatever. And then you can save them and you could also access their email, right? And then send them an email. That is, so you've got this one, for example, City Scene, whatever the case is, Kathy. Okay, so City Scene. So it looks like it's probably a digital magazine or possibly also a print magazine, but they got a digital presentation, right? That's what we're talking about. And again, this is just an example. You can put, we've built 1,000 lists in our history as an agency. Every title under the sun. If you wanted to target HR, if you want to target customer service manager, directors, and VPs, you want to target Again, owners, any director, manager, IT, in any title in an organization, you can do it. You can narrow your scope by industry and keywords to narrow the scope of the types of companies that you're reaching out to. You can then narrow the scope by the size of the organization, by certain employee counts, and only include those. Another thing you can do, and we can look at this. For example, let's say we wanted to ensure that if we're going to reach out to this company, we want to make sure, in this case for sales, we want to make sure they have at least one salesperson at the magazine or in the company. Otherwise, it might be a waste, right? Although not always, because some owners might need a sales rep all of a sudden, right? It might be a small magazine. But let's say we want to make sure that they have one salesperson. You go to employees by department, you go down to sales, and now we put in one and we say minimum, they got to have at least one salesperson. All right, now that cut our list in half. There you go. Now we have a good targeted list, right? We got 7,300 total to go after. So these are all these titles in magazine with the magazine as a keyword, and they have one sales type person of some title within sales in-house. You can get more granular than that, right? But at the end of the day, that is kind of to wrap it up, because I get really into the nitty gritty here, and this is a really long video. To wrap it up, if you're looking for a remote position, find a focus, get your resume focused on that. Even if you don't have experience, there's ways around that, and you might want to hire a resume writer to help you with that, because that's outside of my scope of expertise. But keep your resume focused on what you're looking for. If nothing else, not the industry necessarily, but at least the job type, right? So keep that focused. The longer your tenure in companies, the better. The longer your tenure in an industry, the better for your resume. Take assessments, publish the ones on your resume as part of your resume or as an attachment of relevant assessments where you scored really well, right? Record a video and introduce yourself to them. Tell them what you can do for them, not ask them if they're hiring. Tell them what pain point you can solve for them. That's what they want to hear. If you're a programmer coder, I can program in Python or whatever the case is. I know nothing about that stuff. I can program for you, right? I got 8 years experience programming Python, whatever the case is. If you can use a Python programmer, I'd love to show you what I can do. I'd love to do a mock test or something like that. Like whatever it is. That's how you find a job these days. That's how you're going to separate yourself, especially if you're looking for a remote position. If you're willing to go into an office, you really, really have much greater leverage and much greater advantage, because that's what companies really want. And they've got a much smaller pool of talent to look at. So if you do these things and apply to jobs on a local level, you're going to have a huge advantage. And I highly encourage you to do that. But we know that most people want to find a remote position. So just applying to jobs and sending your resume and getting it to HR or internal recruiters, again, you're a needle in a haystack. They're looking at a low single-digit percentage of the resumes that they receive. I want to say that the recent stat I heard is somewhere between 3 and 4%, but I really don't know for every remote position. But I don't know that that's totally true. I know we have a different process in our agency, and we're very video focused. So once somebody applies to our agency, we ask them to fill out a form, do a video. Video introduction for us is everything, right? Because we really like to work with clients who want to hire a person and not a resume. That said, can't escape the fact that companies want certain levels of experience on your resume in order to consider you. So if you don't have the experience, video is going to help overcome that, right? Especially with owners and hiring managers that are more interested in you as a person than they are in your resume. Again, that's the big picture. That's why this cold outreach methodology is necessary if you're trying to find that remote position, and especially if you don't have a top tier resume to really separate yourself with HR or internal recruiters. Okay, hopefully this helps you. Again, don't have anything to sell you at Kevin M. Downey because we deal with B2B companies, but hopefully this gives you, again, help. I'll put that Apollo link in the description. And certainly if you ever need help, you're more than welcome. Visit our website. You want to schedule a call with me or something like that. You're looking for a little help. I can only handle so many calls like that. But at the end of the day, I'm welcome to do it. Not looking for any compensation. Just hit Let's Talk, schedule a call with me, 15 minutes. Tell me what you need help with, and we'll dig in and we'll help you out. Okay? All right. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much for taking the time today. Hope this helps you, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.